Imagine a treasure trove filled with the most thrilling, action-packed, and heart-pounding manga series you can think of, all conveniently packaged into one magazine. That's right, Weekly Shonen Jump is a weekly manga anthology magazine published in Japan by Shueisha. What sets Weekly Shonen Jump apart from other manga magazines? It's simple, the sheer diversity and quality of its content. Each issue is jam-packed with a variety of manga series spanning multiple genres, from action and adventure to comedy and romance. And here's the best part. Weekly Shonen Jump is home to some of the most iconic manga series of all time. We're talking about legendary titles like Naruto, Dragon Ball, One Piece, My Hero Academia, and so many more. However, amidst these giants of shonen, some manga are left out. Diamonds in the rough who have potential unseen to others, washed away by the titans who constantly rummage their grounds. These are the best, new, or unknown manga of Shonen Jump. Today, I wish to introduce my viewers to this manga. Hidden in the rough of Shonen Jump, I will explain the first chapter to give everyone a perspective of the series and my own thoughts about these manga. Break the shackles and seek freedom. You are cast out the moment you are born. You're completely denied any honor in personhood, and you're perpetually and violently controlled. Centuria, at face value, is a simple story about slaves. A manga which begins with 100 slaves being taken onto a ship, transported towards a continent. A navigator speaks of the zone they are proceeding to sail into, the Elode zone. Selection of open waters where ships have sunk passing through. Waters stated to be cursed by myth. Legends that a mythical beast lay there, waiting for ships to run through and attack, sacrificing all who pass to satiate its own hunger. This all doesn't matter, however. After all, they'll only be passing by the edge of it, right? However, before the conversation continues on, the workers on the ship seem to have tied up a mysterious boy, a stowaway who had invaded their ship. The decision was swift, to execute the boy by throwing him overboard to die. The captain agrees, but the slaves do not. They protest, however the captain retorts that they only have enough food for 100 slaves, not 101. This is where a pregnant woman comes in, offering to split her portion with the boy despite carrying a baby. The first time the stowaway has had someone who cared about him in such a way. We cut to the woman and the unknown boy underneath the deck. The woman explains that she helped the boy for one reason. No one treats slaves with basic human decency, so the slaves value compassion. That's why she lent him a hand. It lets them maintain their pride as human beings. She unravels a small blade, one granted by her husband, but states that it is rusted over. The boy takes it and begins to work on it, revealing his mother sold him for a pittance when he was younger. His master was a blacksmith, and so he learned how to polish blades. When he made mistakes, he was burned with heated metal rods, and thus he developed the scars. Before he was seemingly about to be killed, the boy grabbed a grindstone and murdered his own master, an act of revenge, to save himself. He had never been treated with compassion, not by anyone and not even by his own mother. He didn't know the first thing about stuff like compassion and morality. He finished polishing the blade and handed it back to the woman, revealing his name to be Julian, and the woman's Mira. She reveals that her baby will likely be born when she reaches the continent, and her hope is that the baby is born safe and sound and lives a happy life. If she can have that, she doesn't mind suffering for the rest of her life. Julian sulks. This was a new experience. From his own life, he always assumed what happened to him was normal. In response, Mira hugs him. Even in a world like this, love and kindness do exist. We skip past a lot of great story beats, an opportunity for you, the watcher, to go forth and enjoy the story for yourself. The captain calls the slaves above deck, beginning a wild murdering spree and speaking of how worthless the slaves are. But why? No matter what, at the end of this spree, only Mira and Julian are left standing, crying as it begins to rain, though the rain doesn't drop. Tentacles crawl onto the boat, forming into feet and then an eldritch creature onto the ship, questioning Mira and Julian if they seek its blessing. It speaks. 1. You must sacrifice a large number of souls. 2. You must sacrifice a pure love. I shall grant my blessing to the one who satisfies both these conditions. The first condition you have already fulfilled. The second condition can be fulfilled by either of you. Therefore, The two of you must decide. One of you will be my sacrifice. One shall die, while the other shall be blessed and obtain great power. Julian seems distraught as he looks away towards Mira, deciding that he will offer his life to the beast to save Mira and her baby. He tells her to go and live a happy life, but she refuses. She protests that she will not let another one of her children die, as she sees Julian as a child of her own, that she will leave the baby in Julian's care. And just like that, she ends her own life, using the same polished blade to rip her own baby out of her womb and holding them in her arms. Mira names her baby Deanna and then sacrifices her life. The conditions have been fulfilled, and the creature asks what Julian desires. He answers that he desires proof. Proof that everyone's lives, that Mira's life wasn't a waste. And so he has it. His eyes are surrounded in black marks, and an ink-like smoke releases from him. He dashes at unmatched speeds and instantly kills the captain of the ship. He had been granted the life force of 100 slaves, their power, their speed, their endurance, their reflexes, and even 100 lives, all combined into one entity. With this, he kills the entire crew and saves the baby, Deanna. The rest of the story is for you all to find out. I personally enjoy the story. It beats with heartbreaking lore and moments alongside the standard beat of shonen battle. To reiterate, this manga's title is Centuria and only has 2 chapters. I believe if given the right time to truly cook, this could be a shonen great. Sort of gives me Berserk vibes in a sense. Front and back, light and dark. Where there is light, there is shadow. Aligned with the shape of a shadow, it exists in our world too. Shadow Eliminators, otherwise known as Rurui Senki, I probably butchered that name, is a manga that reminds me much of Jujutsu Kaisen. In terms of concept, the supposed big bad enemies, and even the jolliness of the main character at the beginning. However, when you read later on into the manga, you can see the tone of the story change. Some of its direction takes a different path alongside it. Our lead is a boy named Aoba Kuramori, a high school boy who had transferred back to a high school in Moribe. Despite this being his first day, he had already helped a lady, leaping into a pool to help her retrieve her handkerchief. A selfless kid. However, this is not his only motivation. We learn he has a mark in his neck, though for whatever reason, still hidden. However, we do also learn and see examples of his athletic attributes. Just who is this kid? He quickly makes friends with a boy named Asakaze, labeled to be the justice man at the high school due to how strictly he attempts to enforce rules on others. He explains his ideology to Aoba, that in order for us to be correct, we must respect the rules and govern ourselves. Aoba responds, not disagreeing with Asakaze, but stating, to avoid regret, he must walk his own path, even if it may be outside of this world. Just then, a pressure overtakes Aoba, and we see a black hole. He mutters the words, a hollow, beneath his breath, and begins a mass dash away from Asakaze, who follows him. He enters the art room, and Asakaze follows behind, witnessing a woman with white tendrils surrounding her, latching onto Aoba. She seems to speak about her lack of artistic talent and a hate for an unknown man. Just then, a white-haired woman with a pipe speaks up, the grandmother of Aoba. She explains that this is a den of otherworldly creatures known as threads. They gather together and wrap themselves around the shadows in people's hearts and take form. She also implies, if left on its own for long, said shadow will take a form. But we also learn Maribe City has become a beacon for the otherworld, and that is why Aoba came here. Soon after Asakaze was taken to Aoba's place, we learn strong passions and negative thoughts. Those shadows of the heart are what threads latch onto. Then they take form and become Kasane. Soon after, following some inner monologue, Asakaze leaves the building and finds a peculiar scene. The voice of someone he knows, Fuyuno-sensei, assaulting a girl. However, on closer inspection, Fuyuno is masked. Fuyuno had become a vessel for a Kasane. Before its attack can reach Asakaze, however, Aoba bursts onto the scene, slashing apart the threads and speaking towards Asakaze with a reassuring grin. He explains that the black mask is proof that someone's mind and body have been taken over by Kasane, that they can fester in humans who don't have resistance against it. Aoba, angered, seems to develop handcuffs around his wrist and launches himself forward. He says he wants to fulfill his purpose and doesn't have time to hesitate. Activating a peculiar technique he labeled unmasking jutsu, he develops a kasane of his own and a blade which he uses. One that doesn't slay people, but only slays kasane. As I said previously, this story is interesting because I've always liked stories made in this way. I don't wish to see it being another Phantom Seer, and it has been going strong for the 18 chapters it currently has. The concept isn't something particularly new, but I think most people will enjoy its nice execution. Those two manga are the main manga I wish to recommend to you all. However, there's a single third outlier, which I'll make a different video on, mainly because I feel the manga deserves something of its own. But for now, that is all. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. It was Muzan here, and I'll see you guys the next time. Make sure to like and subscribe.